No one in Hopewell expected that Bruno Hauptmann would become the face of a national tragedy. It was March 1st, 1932, a quiet night at the Lindbergh estate in rural New Jersey. Charles Lindbergh, the transatlantic aviation hero, and his wife Anne were sleeping a short distance from the second-floor nursery of their 20-month-old son when a cut in the window screen and a handmade ladder announced the beginning of a crime that would rivet the nation. By morning, the child was gone. A ransom note demanding $50,000 arrived, written in block letters and signed by someone who called himself a desperate man. The Lindberghs involved the police, and the case instantly mushroomed into a media spectacle, a parade of detectives, suspects, and wild theories. Newspapers called it the crime of the century. The public demanded results. Investigators found chilling traces: a ladder crafted to reach a second-story window, footprints, and the telltale paper of ransom notes. 2 months later, on May 12th, a farm worker found the small, battered body of Charles A. Lindbergh Jr. in a shallow grave less than 5 miles from the family home. The child had suffered blunt trauma to the skull. Grief turned to nationwide outrage. The investigation stretched across state lines. The ransom money had been paid in gold certificates, specific serial-numbered bills. That trace would become the case's hard thread. In September 1934, detectives watched a Bronx gas station when a cashier deposited a marked bill. Their surveillance led them to an ordinary-looking Bronx home and its occupant, Bruno Richard Hauptmann, a German-born carpenter who had emigrated to the United States years earlier. Prosecutors said they had found a large portion of the ransom money in Hauptmann's garage and attic. The prosecution's star witness, wood expert Arthur Kohler, testified that the ladder used in the kidnapping had been built from a trunk and floorboards that could be matched by grain and saw marks to lumber in Hauptmann's possessions. Handwriting analysts declared the ransom notes bore similarities to Hauptmann's writing. The circumstances closed like a vice. Hauptmann told a different story. He insisted he had never met the Lindberghs and that the money had been left with him months earlier by a
deceased acquaintance, Isidor Fisch, a fellow German who had returned to Germany and died there. Fisch's shadow, a possible conspirator beyond the reach of American police, fed speculation that Hauptmann had been an intermediary rather than the mastermind. Dr. John F. Condon, a Bronx schoolteacher who had negotiated directly with the kidnapper under the sobriquet Jafsie, testified about meetings in the Bronx where the go-between collected and delivered messages, deepening the sense that more hands had been involved. The trial, held in Flemington in 1935, was a theater of anguish and forensic drama. The courtroom absorbed testimony about saw marks and letter shapes, the peculiarities of gold certificates, and the minute threads that prosecutors said tied Hauptmann to the crime. Hauptmann's defenders argued the evidence was circumstantial, the investigation rushed, and that errors and biases had crept into the police work. Still, the jury convicted. On April 3, 1936, Bruno Hauptmann was executed in the electric chair. He proclaimed his innocence to the end. The Lindbergh case changed America. Congress passed the Federal Kidnapping Act, the Lindbergh Law, making kidnapping a federal crime when victims are carried across state lines. But the deeper questions linger. Was Hauptmann a lone operator who built a ladder and butchered an infant's life? Or was he a hired hand in a broader conspiracy that escaped full exposure? Historians and journalists have argued both sides for decades. Some evidence, the matched ladder lumber, the serial-numbered bills, and eyewitness accounts, points to his guilt. Other critics point to investigative missteps and unresolved leads tied to men like Fisch. What remains indisputable is the human wreckage, a celebrated family shattered, a nation shaken, and a criminal justice system pushed into new territory.